I tried to change the brightness in the settings. It doesn't do anything. I don't know why. It just doesn't. Anyway, Isaiah. It's a book full of prophecy and other things. Probably the most famous prophecy in Isaiah is Isaiah 53, where, but this is not the only prophecy. Like there's Isaiah 7, where a sign of Emmanuel is also in that day the Lord will whistle for the flies from the distant streams of Egypt and the bees from the land of Assyria. They will come and settle in this steep ravines and the crevices in the rocks and on all the thorn bushes and at all the watering holes. So there's all this. It sounds like this is going to be a conquering king. Well, yes, but this is where. Therefore, the Lord Himself will give you a sign. There, the virgin will be with child and give birth to a son, and his name will be called Emmanuel. Now, here's the thing. So many people are. This doesn't mean virgin. This means young woman. Well, guess what, you freaks? And I do mean freaks. Because you are absolute freaks. So it sounds like, yes, a conquering king. But then there sounds like verses of suffering. How do we know this is an actual virgin? Because you didn't have sex until marriage back then. And that was strictly enforced. Also, this will be a sign to you that a young woman gives birth. How is that a miraculous sign? How? So the idea of a young woman, someone who's not yet married, and a virgin was basically the same. Once you're married, you're considered fully grown. You don't get married until you're considered a fully grown adult. And no, this isn't before puberty, like a bunch of other freaks want to say. Yeah. This is a virgin. Let's see. Isaiah 7, 14, I think, where this prophecy is located. They had so many prophecies. Maybe we could get them all. So yes, if we go down to the actual word, it both means a young woman and a virgin. Now, again, explain to me how a young woman giving birth is a miracle. How? Not like And oh yeah, in the previous book, it is described like concubine in Song 6:8, concubine, and virgins without number. Or of Psalms 1:3, therefore do the virgins ponder forth, therefore do the virgins love. Yeah. It, um, or Genesis 24:43. Of the water it shall come to pass that when the virgins, or Exodus 2:8, daughter of Pharaoh, go to the maiden and call, yeah, Moses' sister, who's thought to be a child. So unless you freaks, I do really mean this. This isn't poisoning the well, because you really are. Want to think about young kids, young little girls having sex, and think that's a miraculous sign somehow. That's not what the Bible's saying. It's not. Sorry to inform you, but girls don't have sex all the time, every single day, all the time. Above the, unless they're like two, no. Oh yeah, then there's Isaiah chapter 9. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. Those living in the land of the shadow of death, a light is dawning. Yes, for unto us a child is born. Yeah. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God. Oh, it's just a human. It's just a human. It's just a Mighty God. Wonderful and Counselor sometimes separate. So, back to Bible Hub. That was my last. And go back to Isaiah. Go to chapter 9. You can look up any commentary. Any commentary. Yeah, it will. Any translation. Chapter verse 6. For unto, let's see. Mighty God, mighty God, mighty God, mighty God, mighty God, the mighty God. Every single they all say different things. No, they don't. They all use different wordings to basically say the exact same thing. That's what the people don't want to tell you. But, yeah, all of them say mighty God, mighty God, mighty God, mighty God. More Majority Standard Bible, mighty God. Word English Bible. Literal Standard Version, mighty God. Oh yeah, then there's Everlasting Father. But Jesus is not the Father. It's meant to be Father of Eternity. Yeah. So there. That's actually what it's meant to say. And Prince of Peace. Because the King of Peace, and he's a priest in order of Melchizedek. Yes, every single translation. From the Aramaic. Oh, it says the Mighty One. And then Everlasting God. So, and then another translation just says the Counselor, then God. Well, will bring us into eternity. And then there's two weird translations that don't say it. One just like Peli Jos El Jebo something. One who just terms of Jew, just taking a got it right out of there. But what does the original Hebrew say? Let's see, unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government upon. So he will be called Wonderful, a miracle. Okay, Counselor, to advise, to deliberate, resolve, mighty, power, warrior, tyrant. That's all the different words that mean. Then God is the word El. Singular. And guess what? Every other time that's used to denote divine status. Either Yahweh himself or a foreign god. But how can Yahweh be born unless he becomes a man? But yes, every single instance of El, that's the Hebrew, Old Hebrew word for God. El, and he shall be called El. So, yeah. So there's that. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom. Yeah. But let's go to Isaiah 53, where a lot of it, where the suffering servant who has believed our message and to whom has the arm of the Lord be revealed. This, again, they'll say, oh, this is Israel. Really? It doesn't make sense. Surely he took up our infirmities and carried our sorrows. Yeah, we considered him stricken by God. Remember, Isaiah is an Israelite. So Israel's taking the punishments for Israel, and Israel's considering Israel stricken by God. What? Smitten by him and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. Why say this prophecy is about Israel? If this is Israel just being punished for its own sins, this is a bizarre way to say it. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all like sheep have gone astray. Each one of us have turned to his own way. So this is about Israel sinning. And the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. And guess what? All this is in singular in Hebrew. It's in singular. Yeah. Yes, he was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows, familiar with suffering, like one of from whom men hide their faces. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him. Nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He just looked like an average person, and they rejected. But this is not just about Israel. It's about the world. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Jesus said nothing in his defense. Think about that. Why? Why didn't he say anything? Because when we stand before judgment, we can't, with God, we can't say anything to defend ourselves. We're guilty, and there's nothing we can do. So Jesus took that on himself. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and a sheep before his shears is silent. So he did not open his mouth. He didn't. For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgressions of my people he was stricken. Yes. He was assigned a grave with the wicked, and with the rich in his death, though he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. He did nothing wrong. He was completely innocent. Israel, you can't claim to be completely innocent. Other parts of Isaiah debunk this. And no, this isn't circular reading. Not like, oh, if you read the Old Testament, or first read the New Testament, then read the Old Testament, it's like, oh, wow, this is so, it doesn't make sense. Without the New Testament to be the Jewish interpretation. It just doesn't. So why does it say the servants Israel in other passages? Because Jesus is Israel, the true Israel. Yes. After the suffering of his soul, he will see the light of life and be satisfied. By his knowledge, my righteous servant will justify many. Yes. Will justify many. Or by the knowledge of him. Yes. Therefore I will give him a portion among the great, and he will divide the spoils with the strong, because he poured out his life unto death, and was numbered with the transgressors. For he bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors, intercession for the transgressors. Again, it doesn't make sense that that's Israel, because Israel's just as guilty as everybody else. And Isaiah points that out again and again and again. Yes. So, and then we get things about foreigners being saved. If they just worship the Lord. Lord. Redemption. Say this because Isaiah is also Saul, as That's two different sections. We have the Old Testament, as it where like all this coming down, and, like judging Israel, all this other stuff, and then we have New Testament Isaiah, where there's redemption and hope and salvation and the new heaven and new earth. Yes. That is Isaiah. So, yes, a quick other thing. Oh, Jesus wasn't the Messiah because he was this conquering king who was going to build the third temple. Okay, if he was a conquering king, then you couldn't build the temple because David was a conquering bloody king and was told that's why he couldn't build the first one. So, Jesus came down and did build the temple. The believers, Christians. Yeah. Don't you know your body is a temple for the Holy Spirit? Or all the other ones. Either are like, he's going to do that in his second coming. And there's plenty of verses that talk about the Messiah being conquering king and the Messiah dying. And yes, there's plenty of people who thought there were going to be two Messiahs. One conquering and one dying. Yes. Israel, come to your Messiah. Anyway. But then, yeah, there's also the Great Isaiah Scroll, showing that it's basically been saying the exact same thing for years. I don't remember how old that is. Just a minute, I can look it up. How old is the Great Isaiah Scroll? Is approximately 2,100 to 2,300 years old. Roughly between the 2nd century and the 1st century. Or between 356 to 100 BC. Yes. How did he hear squirrel? And yes, it basically says the exact same thing. So clearly it hasn't been changed or corrupted for, that long. Which is amazing to think about. But then there's there's like 3 different parts to Isaiah. Like, there's 1st Isaiah, 2nd Isaiah, and 3rd Isaiah. Go watch Inspiring Philosophies, Who Wrote the Bible. Basically, his argument, summarized, is that Isaiah, said all these things, and then after he died, or as he was saying these things, different people who were following him wrote down his sayings and then compiled them together into the book of Isaiah. Which we know Jeremiah was definitely written by somebody else. So it's because Jeremiah says so. So there's talk about that next time. Right? Yeah. So, yeah, not really a problem. So yeah, there's Isaiah. See you next time for Jeremiah.